Hi everyone, I was white in this game. My opponent was pretty strong, had a rating of 2205, and we played a nimzo-indian defense here with bishop b4, e3, and then I've seen this same mistake or inaccuracy by strong opponents several times now. He played knight e4. Now that is a key move in the nimzo. Sometimes black does make that move, but it's too early to make it here. I think a better plan is either castles or you can play b6, fianchetto this bishop, and then that bishop can support your knight on e4. So fianchetto that bishop before you put that knight on e4. So here's what happened. Okay, I attack the knight and guard my own knight. He supports it further with f5, and I attack it again. So this induces him to trade it off and then drop his bishop back. And now the e4 square is under my control, so I'm allowed to push my pawn and gain space and get this other bishop into the game. So just look at the position right here. This opening is already a success for white. We have a stronger center. We have more space in the center, more squares behind our pawns. We have better development. We have two pieces out. He has only one. And I would say with this f-pawn thrust forward here, his king side is weaker than mine is as far as castling and king safety goes. Okay, so let's see how it continues. g6, an unfortunate mistake. g6 doesn't help you make your king safer, doesn't develop your pieces. It just creates weak squares. Now you have all these dark squared weaknesses on the king side, and you probably don't want a castle over there. But I can see why my opponent played that move. His pawn on f5 was under attack 3 times. I think he probably should have just traded it off, but instead he guarded it a second time with a pawn. And after that move, if you look at the engine score here on the top right of the board, it already says white is plus 2.2. That's more than a 2-pawn advantage, and I have no extra material. I just have a better position. A better position is equal to material, 2.2. So knight to f3, just developing. Castles. E takes f5. E takes f5. Castles. I still have a +2 advantage. I think a better plan besides castling was to break open the king side, push this h-pawn here, induce this pawn to trade or move forward, and then that would make the f5 pawn weak. His king is really weak over here. But I castled, and knight c6, bishop h6, rook f7, queen d2. I've connected my queen and bishop. I didn't want my bishop to get trapped in there with g5. And now he makes a big mistake here with d5. Look at the evaluation. It's plus 2.6 right now, but after d5 it's 5.1. So somehow my position with no extra material, not a single pawn, is plus 5.1, the equivalent of a whole rook. And it's not because of a blunder of material. There's no tactic here. I can't win material in this position. Why is this move so bad? Well, I'm trying to understand it myself. I think the main reason is it weakens the e5 square, another dark square weakness over here. So the engine is suggesting d6 instead to get the bishop out and protect that square. Probably d5 also allows me to liquidate my doubled c-pawns too easily here, and maybe even make use of this diagonal. And notice how his king and rook are placed on that diagonal. If I can get a bishop or queen to that diagonal and pin that rook, that might be useful. So d5 is a mistake, and I just followed opening principles. I didn't do anything special. I did try to control that e4 square. I got my king safe, and I'm up like a whole rook here. So rook e1, bishop f6, rook ab1, just developing. And now a trade takes place. Queen to d6 apparently is another inaccuracy. And I had a bit of a tactic here, and you can see it's up to plus 6.6, and I think I can now liquidate my positional advantage and trade some of it in for a material advantage. And the way I could have done that was trading pawns here on d5, attacking the queen, making the queen drop back somewhere, and then placing my bishop on that diagonal, pinning the rook. So winning at least the exchange. But the exchange should be worth 2 points, right? How am I at plus 6 points in that position? Well, I have a dominant position. I'm better developed. I have the bishop pair. His king is weak. So that was a possibility. Hard to see that in a blitz game. Instead, I play bishop f4, attack his queen. He falls back. And now he blunders with, after queen e3, he blunders with bishop a6. So it looks enticing. You do attack this c4, this double pawn a lot in certain positions in the nimzo, but not in this particular position. This does allow me to win material. I take here, and the point is I'm attacking both the knight and the bishop at the same time. Okay, so for example, he cannot recover the pawn with the queen and save his knight because I win the bishop. He cannot take the bishop because then I take the knight, and then I would be attacking his queen and bishop at the same time. The only move he really has to save a piece is knight to b8, retreating the knight and protecting his bishop. So he had to give up that pawn in order to do it. So I'm up 1 pawn, but somehow the engine tells me it's plus 8.8. It's just crazy. Now, I do squander away most of that advantage, but I just wanted to point out how to play the opening. Just play it following general principles. Okay, I trade here and push my c-pawn, figuring I want to solidify my pawn advantage. This mass of pawns is very good here. I have control of the e-file. I have a good square for my bishop to come into e5. His king is still weak. His knight is misplaced on the edge of the board. So I like my advantage, even though it went down to plus 3. c6, d takes c6. Computer suggests I push the pawn and get a strong passed pawn. I trade off pawns there. And I mistakenly offer a trade of queens. I didn't realize how big of an advantage I had. I'm not looking at an engine while I play, so I didn't realize I was ever plus 8 or plus 5 or plus 3. I figured, okay, I'm a pawn up and my pieces are a little bit better. I have a slight advantage. I have like a 1.5 point advantage. Trading queens seems good to me, but I should have kept them on the board and continued to attack. But I do offer the trade of queens. He actually declines and plays rook c8, develops his other rook. And now bishop to h6 is a threat. Apparently it's not nearly the best move because it does allow the trade of queens, and a lot of my power gets diffused here. But it is a threat. I'm threatening to play queen takes queen, rook takes queen, and then rook to e8 check, and the rook blocks on f8, and then rook takes f8 mate. So I'm threatening to take the queen, followed by a back rank mate thanks to the bishop on h6. So he should really just trade queens here, but instead he plays knight b8 for the second time. That's twice now that knight went to b8 after it left its original square. And so he guards his queen with his knight. Okay, so now I push my d-pawn, guard my queen, attack his queen, and again, he should just trade queens here. His queen is a bit overloaded. If he doesn't trade it, there's 2 problems. He has to guard the rook on c8 so I don't take it, but he also has to guard the e8 square so I don't get a back rank mate starting with queen to e8 check. Rook takes e8, rook takes e8. So he has to guard these 2 squares with his queen, and he can't. Unless he trades queens, he's in trouble. And he doesn't. He blunders, queen to a4. I take his rook, and he resigns. Okay, so I found that fascinating looking at that after the game and seeing how big of an advantage it is to have extra space and better pieces and a safer king. All right, thanks for watching the video.